Alright, welcome to all of my patrons at this tier. And this is the very first of the SWAT videos that I'll be creating. I thought to begin off, I would start with something a little simple, but something that I believe eludes a lot of artists. What I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be creating an animated texture using Substance Designer. Now, this animated texture can be exported as sequential PNGs, and you can use those as an animation. You can also compile those together to create yourself a flipbook texture to be used in a game engine such as Unity or Unreal. So let's get started here. I have Designer open, and I'm just going to go create myself a new substance, and I'm going to just call this animated texture. Get rid of the space. Something like that. I'm going to use this 2048 by 2048. We're going to use the PBR with metal roughness here, and I'll let that go. Now, I don't want to get overly complex in the material that I'm going to make, so I'm going to make something that is both useful but also fairly simple to create. This way you have an easy time following along, and we're not going to spend too much time diddying around here inside Designer. We're just going to make something pretty quick. So to begin with, let's go into our library here, full of all the nodes that are in Designer, and I'm going to look up Plasma, and we'll grab this Plasma node and drag it in here. The effect that I'm going to make is going to be the effect that you see underwater of caustics, light caustics. This is the light that you get kind of shimmering through the surface of the water, creating these really cool patterns underneath the water on the surface. And that's what I'm going to make here. So this Plasma node kind of gets us most of the way there, which is kind of really nice. And again, kind of shows you how simple I want to keep this. We're going to do a couple of things here. We're going to grab an invert node. I'm going to invert this. And we're just going to keep this grayscale. I don't need to do much else with that. Invert like that. And we're also going to grab a levels node from up on here. And I'll grab this. And we're just going to use the base color output here. I don't really need to do a normal map or anything else of that nature. Okay, with these three nodes connected here, this is all we're really going to need to do in order to make this look correct. So let's start with the Plasma node. Obviously, we're at a way too high density in the look here. So I'm going to take the scale and I'm going to pull it back a little bit. Give me something a little bit more like that. We're going to go into the levels here, and we're going to make sure that we're getting a very... Let's pull our tab out here so we can see this. There we go. And something a little bit more grayscale, or a little bit more contrasty. Get rid of most of the gray that's within here. So you can see the red out of the gate. This is doing a pretty decent job of getting us the look that we're looking for here. What I'm going to do just to make it a little bit more dynamic is duplicate these nodes. I'm just going to select them all and hit Control D. I'll bring them down here to create a second level. And then we're just going to go ahead and blend these two together like this. Now right away, this is not going to do anything, both because they're identical, but also because our blend node isn't really doing anything at the moment. So let's go and fix that first. We'll grab the blend node. Over here, we're going to change from copy to add, like so. And then we're going to go into the Plasma node here of our second string, and we're going to go and just give this a different random seed, like so. Now, let's go back into our blend here. I'm on add sub, and I actually want add, like so. And this is going to give us something that looks a little bit more like caustics. At least it's not going to be just a singular pattern moving here, but we're going to get dual patterns kind of moving and interacting with each other. The other thing that I could do to make this look a little bit more interesting would be to grab that first Plasma node. I've got my scale here set to 12, and maybe we'll just drop this down to a scale of 8, which is going to give us two different sizes of these little kind of funny patterns inside of here. So that's essentially what I want my texture to look like. Something a little bit like that. We have two different tiers of these things going. If I wanted to, I could even go put a little bit of a blur in here just to clean this up. So I'm going to do the high quality grayscale blur. And I'm just going to drop this on the line here. Oh, I missed. I'll just plug that back in. And the reason I want to do this, so I've gotten rid of the contrast here, so we're just using a lot more of these black and whites. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab this this blur, and I'm going to use that to just soften up these nodes just a little bit. So this is kind of just fuzzing the outside of these things a little bit, and not creating too much, not creating too much grayscale here, but just making it a little bit softer. Okay. So now that we have those, let's get rid of these nodes here that we don't need. These are the additional outputs. I'm not going to bother deleting them or anything like that. We're just going to move them aside. And this is our graph here that we're going to be editing. So in order to create an animated version of this, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to create a little bit of scripting here inside of Designer. We're going to need to tell this to animate. Now, the downside of this, and I do hope this is something they rectify in Substance Designer down the road, is that when we do set this up to animate, we won't be able to see it animate within Designer. Now, Algorithmic does have a tool that we will be able to use in order to see this animate, which is going to be their Substance Player. And I'll pop that open here now. I don't want to uninstall this. Let's cancel that. Let's cancel. And let's go look for player. And I do not see it here. Let's go take a look on the desktop where I have it here somewhere. Or apparently I don't have it. Okay, let's go take a look back in here. Player. Substance Player. I don't see it, so let's try Substance Player. There we go. So I'm going to boot up Substance Player here. Now what Player is, more or less, is just a means of being able to view the materials that you've created or the substances you've created. This is it here. We've got a cube in which we'll be able to see our material. We can go to 2D view. We'll be able to see all of our exports here, all of our textures here. But most important, what we're going to have in Substance Player that doesn't exist in Designer, nor does it exist in Painter, is down at the bottom, our timeline. So this is where we're going to be able to hit the play button and have this material play upon our cube. So back in the world of Designer, now that we've got this worked out in terms of where we're going to be viewing our animation, let's begin the process of animating. As I mentioned, we're going to be doing a little bit of scripting here. So I'm going to go grab the first plasma node here. And what we're going to be looking at in the properties of the plasma node is this little property right here called disorder. Now, if I bring up my 2D view here and we take a look at what disorder does, currently the disorder is set to 0. And if I start moving this, you can see that that actually will move those little nodes all over the place and actually start giving us something that looks animated. Now, the nice thing about this is the value of 0 and the value of 1 are actually identical. That means that this actually creates a loop for us. So that's beneficial. All we need to do now is just tell the software to move this disorder, to actually make it animate. The way that we're going to do that, I'm just going to bring this back down again here. And again, I'm on my first plasma node. I'm going to go to the disorder here, and instead of typing in a value down here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this little graph node up here. And when I open this up, we have the ability of using a couple of other options here. We can expose this. That's what we would do if we were bringing this into Substance Painter. That way it would be a variable that we'd be able to edit inside of Painter. What I'm going to choose is the one called empty function. Here, we're going to create a function that is going to manipulate how this thing moves. So, empty function. Now, you'll notice I no longer have the number value here. I can no longer type in a value to edit this plasma, and that's exactly what we want. Also, the little graph icon has now turned blue. Let's go edit that graph. To do this, we just double-click on that icon. And now we're inside of the disorder node. Now there's nothing in here at the moment. We can see we can go back here. There's some tabs at the top. This is our base material again. And then we go back here and here's our disorder node. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to start creating some scripting in here, visual scripting. I'm going to right-click, add a node, and let's start with a variable called getFloat. Now, getFloat is going to take a float, a number with a decimal point, and it's going to allow us to use that to do whatever we want. I'm going to double-click on this node to get its properties over here, and if we use the little drop-down menu, you can see that we can add $time. That has now declared this variable to be time. So that's beautiful. I'm going to take this out, and we're going to create, I'm going to hit spacebar and use the multiplication, and we'll multiply our time node by, let's add a constant float, and we'll put this in here. And now what we've got is time being multiplied by a constant. What this is going to do is it's going to give us the ability to speed up or slow down time. For instance, time multiplied by 0 stops our animation. If our constant was set to a value of 1, then we would have time multiplied by 1. So things would actually move in accordance with like your system clock. If we doubled this, time goes faster. And if we were to slow it down, 0.5, we're now moving at half of the speed of time. So that's pretty simple the way that's going to work. The last thing, I'm just going to set this back to 1 for now. The last thing that we need to do here is to be able to actually pump some values out. Now you notice, unlike the rest of Designer here, there are no output nodes here. There is no output that I can plug this into, no matter how far back I go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab our operator here, our multiplication. And again, this is kind of the end of the chain of the script that we've done, right? We've taken time, we've multiplied it by 1, and this is kind of here. We have an output that we can plug in somewhere, but what we can actually do is right-click on this node, and we can actually set this node to be the output. You'll see it now changes into this yellow color. That's letting us know that that is now the output. So beautiful. I'm going to copy these, and let's now go back into our animated texture. We're going to go to Plasma, and here, this is again the second node. We're going to go to our disorder here as well, and we're going to go and give this as well an empty function. We'll double click on that node, and we'll just go and paste these values in here. And I do need to set this again to be an output node. So there, just like that, we've now got some animation up and running here. Now, we won't be able to see it, again, inside of Designer. That's just the way it works. So what we're going to do, if we go and take a look here inside of Substance Player, you'll see that if I go to Open, let's jump up to my desktop here. You can see here, this is going to open SBSAR and SBS, which is really what we're looking for. So I'm going to go and save this. Let's go back to the Explorer. Here's my animated texture. I'm just going to right-click on this. Actually, let's save the project here. I'm going to save this as. And again, I'm just going to throw this on my desktop so we can track it. And this is my animated texture.sbs, and I'll hit save. Next, I'll minimize this. And now I'll open from here. And again, we'll jump up to our desktop, and animated texture will open. Now, it wants our Substance Designer installation directory, so I'm going to have to go find that. That's in my program files here, algorithmic somewhere. Oh, I'm in 86. We're going to go back here to this one, algorithmic, and there's my Substance Designer. Okay, so there, it's gone and placed that material that was created. And again, it's super shiny. Only because I, made it so. We can go back here. In fact, let's go correct that, and we'll take a look at how this system works here. This is a really neat thing that we can do. So those outputs that I went and got out of the way, here they are here. We don't have anything in our roughness. So I'm going to hit spacebar, U for uniform color, and I'm going to bring this into the roughness, and we're going to set this to be grayscale and white. So now the roughness on this thing is maxed out, meaning this thing is completely matte. So that's good. I'm just going to right-click on this, and we are going to save this again. Now, you'll notice we don't get an instant update here, right? It's still shiny inside of here, but there is a refresh button that if I click that, it'll update our material, now showing us the new version of this material. Also worth noting, in here we're working at a scale of 2048 by 2048, but in Designer, or in Player rather, we are looking at 512 by 512. So it has actually shrunk this thing down. We can go and pump that back up in here again. The scale of these textures is not set in stone, so we can crank it down and bring it up. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is jump down here and hit play in our little time slider. And we can see this thing go. Now it's playing at a very, very slow rate here, so we're going to bring that all the way back to the beginning. And we'll try this again. That's working a little bit better. So what we're getting here is a very, very, very slow frame rate. And we can go and manipulate that here inside of the software. So I'm going to hit stop. We'll bring our time slider here back to the beginning. We're going to go and set our FPS to 60 frames per second. The maximum number of frames in the timeline here, this is actually in seconds, or in frames, rather. So I'm just going to set this to be 10 frames. We don't need it to be that long. And then you can see we have this time here driven by the timeline. So if we go and hit play, this should work a little bit faster. And we should see this now kind of animating. Something like that. Now let's go see if we can clean this up a little bit here. I'm going to stop that. And again, we'll bring it back to the first frame. If we want to see it play at a little bit better resolution here, we can bring this down to 512, and we'll see it actually animate quite nicely. In fact, if I lower the resolution even further, we'll get an even more clean play rate. Now, it's important to note here that these textures, because they were created inside of Designer, these are tiling textures. So this square that we're looking at here, you can see that the image actually moves right across the corner of the cube here in a way that doesn't create any seams. And so I would be able to actually tile this on top of anything, and we'd be able to see it, you know, underneath water or what have you. So that's kind of a neat effect. Now, you notice up here, we don't actually have anything that we can play around with, just the output size and this random seed. So if we go back into Designer, back into this disorder, we can do a few things here that'll give us the ability to play around with things. So if I go back into my node here, and I'm just going to double click on the background, what that's going to do is it's going to give me the properties of the texture instead of the properties of one of the nodes here. So I'm going to go look at our input parameters. We're going to go and let's see, output images, attributes. So I'm going to go and create an input parameter here. This input parameter is going to be a float. We're going to give it a name, and we'll call it time scaler. Something like that. This is going to be a float one. And this is going to be the multiplication of time. Okay. I don't need to put any kind of label or anything in here. We've got a minimum of 0. That's going to stop the animation. We've got a maximum of 1. So this is going to, you know, determine how fast our animation can play. Let's give it a maximum of 25. Our default will be 1. That means it's going to play at the proper rate here. And now we have this node called time scaler. So what I'm going to do now, let's go back into our disorder, and I'm going to take the constant here, and I'm going to delete it. And instead of multiplying our variable by a constant, let's go and add a variable. Let's go and add a variable here to our node. So we'll go into variables, and we'll get a float like so. We'll drag this guy down here. Okay, so something like this. And we're going to take this float, and now we've got these variables that we can choose from here. Again, this is exactly how we created the time float. And so we're going to do the same technique here to create our next float. So I'm going to go into the drop down here, and you can see now in addition to our time that was here originally, we now have the time scalar. So now we're multiplying time by this time scalar. So that's going to give us a really neat effect here. If we do that, and we go into this one, again, we're going to delete this node. We're going to go create another variable, which is getFloat, and we'll plug this in here. We're going to take this float, and we're going to use, again, the same time scalar. Now what this is going to do is it's actually going to play these two animated nodes here at the same speed. So one of the other things that we can do that would be really cool would be to take this multiplier here, duplicate it, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take our time scalar, and we'll just manipulate the time scalar. Now in order to make sure that this continues to loop, we have to be careful how we multiply this. So I'm just going to go add another node here. This is going to be another float, and I'll plug this in here, and I'm just going to take the float and give it a value of 0.5. So now that's going to take whatever time is, and it's just going to cut it in half. This way, our plasma 1 and plasma 2 are actually moving at different rates, one half of the other. Let's go and save this texture. Let's go back into our material here and refresh. When we do that, you're now going to see that time scalar is now listed here as an animated texture output and a manipulation that we can do to play around with this. So if I hit play, we can now see our texture being manipulated, and I have a time scalar that I can move to speed it up. And we can also take this little time scalar and bring it down in below 1 to slow it down. This gives us a really cool kind of effect and something that is manipulatable. Now that is, even though it's playing inside of Substance Play, that is the same effect that we're going to get when we output this guy and create a texture from him. So if we wanted to set these to be sequential images, if we wanted to spit out each one of those frames, we can actually do that here from Designer. We could export out as bitmaps, and we could do this from every single frame from this point to this point. So that's going to give us 11 frames. So if you were trying to make an animated texture, say, out of a flip book or something of that nature, we could go and set this to be 64 frames. And it would now then go and spit out all of those 64 frames. I'm going to cancel this because we don't actually want to export this. But that'll give you each of those images now as sequential images. So you can actually put them together, either assemble them in a software package like After Effects into an animated texture, or you could create a flipbook texture out of them. So there you have it. That is the very first video in the SWAT section of the Patreon page. I would like to thank each and every one of you for contributing and making it possible for me to create these videos. Again, if you have any questions or concerns about what I'm doing or how I'm putting things together, if you have any requests for things that you would like to see done or learn how to do, then please don't hesitate to mention, and we'll take a look at how we can get those things done for you. Again, I thank you, and we'll see you next week for another SWAT video. Thanks for watching.